Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Your neighborhood just got cooler with Kroger Delivery's refrigerated trucks. Simply order groceries at the same great prices online as in-store, and we'll bring them to you fresh every time. And if that wasn't cool enough, you can now earn 4 times the fuel points after 4 with your digital coupon. Choose a next-day Kroger delivery time slot for 4 p.m. or later on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Must deliver by February 4th. Restrictions apply. See Kroger.com for details.
Burlington's Oh Wow Winter Clearance event is on right now. Throughout your store, you'll find tons of new markdowns just taken. Look for red clearance tags throughout the entire store for her, him, the kids, and your home. Score some serious savings at Burlington, up to 70% off other retailers' prices on clearance items. These deals on top of deals won't last long, so stop in today. Burlington. Deals, brands, wow. Prices and selections vary by location.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to episode 680 of the DBR Podcast. I think it's 680. 679? No, I just did 679. This is 680. Yeah, okay, whatever. I'm Jason Evans, here for your listening pleasure, joined by my buddy Donald Wine. Donald, we are in full disclosure. If something happens on Friday, we're recording this episode on Thursday. We're going to be releasing it on Friday. And this is, folks, this is your weekend entertainment. Donald and I will be back after the Notre Dame game, probably on Sunday, maybe Monday. We'll give you all the info you need then. But in the meantime, we got a special guest back. We had this guy on a month ago, and we promised we'd bring him back again. Jordan Brenner, host of the Underdogs podcast on DraftKings. He writes for The Athletic. Jordan, welcome back to the DBR Podcast. I just realized I never even let Donald say hi.
Hi.
All right, so Donald said hi. Jordan, my man, here's what I need to know from you. What have you seen from Duke in the past month that is different from what you saw from them in the first month of the season?
Well, we're just jumping right in. No small talk, Evans. It's been Donald, I haven't seen you in a while. Guys, hi, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Everybody's doing well. Yeah, no.
Jason's all business on this show. He's like, hey, how you doing? Let's talk. Let's talk about Duke basketball.
The people want their Duke news. What can I do? I'm sorry.
All right. So what have I seen? I see a team that is continuing to get better. I see a team that is really fun to watch. I see a team that still, I don't think has even hit its ceiling, which is super exciting. And I see a team that I think someone came on your podcast last month and said something about not reading too much into early season results, that this team's still developing, that the underlying metrics are excellent. That's playing out. Yeah, guy was really...
Jason, we've only had one guest since him, and it was him. So
yeah. Dude's really handsome, funny, smart. Whoever that guy was, I really enjoyed his time.
Let's expand, though, a little bit on what we've seen from them lately, because I feel like this was a team that was playing really great defense, and now it's a team that's playing even better defense. And I've read a lot of stuff lately about Duke is now, as of the Pittsburgh game, they've been switching 1 through 5 even when Kaman Malawach is in the game. It used to be that Duke was only switching 1 through 5 when Malik Brown was in, and now they're switching 1 through 5 with man too. And I've read like 4 different articles that say that a couple of years ago, it was when they started switching 1 through 5 with Derek Lively that the defense just went up to a whole nother level. And the notion that what was like the number 1 or 2 defense in the nation would go up another level because now they're switching with man the same way they did with Lively, that's like just terrifying for everyone not named Duke. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, they can play this a lot of different ways. They can switch everything. They can play drop coverage. You can adjust it to your personnel and the personnel you're playing against, right? A good defensive strategy in part is predicated on what the opposition does very well. There's just so much connectivity. Whatever they're doing strategically, what you can really see is the awareness off the ball. First of all, the ability everyone 1 through 5 to at least guard the ball reasonably well. There's no matchup hunting that you see like in the NBA where you can run a couple screens off the ball and get the switch you want and just attack someone off the dribble. I think the only one who I think right now struggles to hold up on the ball is Isaiah Evans, but otherwise there's really nobody else who you can just create matchups and go after. I think it's funny. I think teams for a while saw Knipple and said, oh, we can attack him. No, you can't. He's perfectly fine at the point of attack. And then the help arrives quickly. The rotations are crisp. Cooper Flagg is just so advanced at that. It reminds me a little bit of an early Shane Battier, just in terms of being aware of where everything else is going on the court to cut things off, that it's just super fun to watch them at that end.
So I was going to ask this a little bit later, but you brought this up. So I'm just going to ask this simple question. Is Cooper Flagg the best player in college basketball?
I don't know. Is that a fair thing to
cop
say?
Out. No. Come on, take a stand, man.
I don't. Yeah, like I'm never one to like make comparisons and say like, oh, this guy is clearly better than this guy. Or it's not a competition. Well, I mean it is, but it's not like it doesn't matter that much. The biggest thing is too, like, there's no one I've watched closer than Cooper. So it's like not I think when people give their opinions, it's in part like it's inherently biased by who you've seen the most, right? So unless you're watching almost every game with the same level of detail and closeness, that it's really hard. Like I just, Dylan Harper, I have not watched nearly as much and as closely and with as much attention as Cooper Flagg. So it's almost like irresponsible of me to say, well, oh yeah, he's much better, when it's like, yeah, I've seen every aspect of his game and I've seen the improvement. It's hard to be much better. I think he's going to be a fantastic pro. But yeah, I'm not into the comparison game so much. Sorry.
All right. So if you're not into the comparison game with other teams, how about with past Duke teams? Because I know you always pay attention to Duke.
Sure.
Where do you feel like Cooper falls, historically? I think it is unfair to do the Shane and the other 4-year guy kind of stuff.
No, you got to look at one and you can't really go past the one and done guys.
Right. So, okay. I mean, alongside Zion, behind Zion, Paulo, where are we falling here?
He's had as big an impact as any freshman ever. Duke, look, he's leading them in every statistical category. You can't have much more of a, he is far and away their usage leader. So they're running things through him, right? Like he is their primary playmaker. Duke is playing positionless basketball in a beautiful way, but and the point guard position in general has sort of evaporated to a certain degree in college basketball or pro basketball too, and replaced just by a primary playmaker. That's Flagg. So yeah, no. There have been other impact freshmen, sure, very impactful freshmen, but no one has been more impactful than what we've seen from Cooper Flagg to this point. I'm very confident in saying that.
So when we look at this team a month ago, it was right before the Auburn game that we talked to you, and you mentioned people should be patient, and that yes, this Duke team was strong, but they had some things that they needed to work out, and that give them some time to do that. Looking back now, we're again a month later. Have some of the weaknesses that you thought about last time we spoke, have they been addressed? And are there any new ones that you feel have emerged in this? I mean, it's a 9-game win streak. So there's not a lot of chances to say, oh, these glaring holes are there. But have you seen something that you think could become a trend if not careful?
Not necessarily a trend, because what's interesting is the sort of the DNA of this team. You could see it early, the way they play. And if you look at the statistics, they're playing roughly the same way. They're just getting better at it. So I would guess my biggest lingering concerns are, they don't get to the free throw line a lot. And I've been looking for ways for them to attack the rim a little more. They really don't have like beat you off the dribble guys, with sort of the exception of Cooper Flagg. I'd like to see Tyrese Proctor try to attack a little more off the bounce. I'd like to see Sion James try to attack a little bit more off the bounce, but that doesn't look like that's just the way this team wants to play. And I'll get back to that in a second. The lack of getting to the line leaves you a little bit exposed to hot and cold shooting nights. What is, we talked about how this team shoots a lot of threes, which analytically is generally a good thing, right? They're taking about 47% of their shots from three. That's top 40 in the nation. And we've seen it in games. They'll go through very cold stretches. The difference is they have so many good shooters. And I think at the time we were talking about depth, right? About Isaiah Evans. Wasn't in the rotation at that point. And I think I said something like, depth isn't who you play, it's who you can play. And turning to someone on a cold shooting night coming in, and damn if he didn't do that the next night against Auburn. Duke they're not playing 4 and 5 on offense anymore. They're outside of the 5 position, and even those two guys can knock down an open 3 occasionally. They don't have non-shooters on the floor. So because their defense is so good, number 1 in the country, according to KenPom, and now you're starting to hear opposing coaches and other people talk about just the level it's on. Because of that, they can play through these cold stretches. And what we're seeing in a lot of these games is they might start slowly shooting, or they might have a stretch where they miss 5 or 6 threes in a row. But because they are high volume and they are good enough shooters that they should regress to the mean at some point, a game where it's 2 points, 3 points, going back and forth, becomes a 12-point game in the blink of an eye, because suddenly they hit 3 threes in a row and the defense is still locking down. So the defense almost buys the 3-point shooting time to lock in. Does that make sense?
Dude, do you listen to our podcast? I literally almost said this exact same thing.
Well, we do text occasionally too.
Yes, yes, this is true. You and I do. No, I want to go back though to something else you said a moment ago, because I was thinking about the fact that you came on right before Isaiah Evans thrust his way into the rotation and shall not find his way back to a long-term stretch on the bench, I think, for the rest of the season. Let's talk about the depth for a moment, because I think I'm wondering what your opinion is of the way Shire has been using all the pieces that he has, and he has a lot of pieces. The last game against Pitt, in that second half especially, 5 guys, 5.5 if you count the Malik Brown sharing time to some extent, but Shire had his 5. Do you think that maybe is he going to fall into the Coach K mode, so to speak, of really going with his starters and 1.5 other guys? Or will we continue to see Mason Gillis and Caleb Foster has fallen down on the rotation? Isaiah Evans, are we going to continue to see those guys still play a role as we get into more and more significant games?
Well, we should get into Caleb Foster a little more after this, but generally, no. I think what the reason why that stood out in the Pittsburgh game, because it ran counter to what we've been seeing in virtually every other game. In terms of there's usually someone coming in at almost every under 4 timeout, right? Every
right.
TV timeout. They are. The sense I got in that game was that group was playing so well and so locked in together that he just didn't want to tweak it in the second half. I mean, I would love a chance to ask him that, but that was just watching.
You got his
TV.
number, dude. Just text him right now.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what he's hoping to talk about right now is get a text from me. Yeah, no, even my family doesn't want that. The combination was working really well. Like Gillis played a good amount, I thought, in the first half and contributed. So it wasn't like that he necessarily went away from guys because of poor performance. Like, I think that, like I said, that group was just clicking. I would be very surprised if we see like anything less than a 9-man rotation and anything less than those guys usually getting double-digit minutes in most games, in part because the schedule is not so daunting, right? So there isn't necessarily going to be a real reason to do that. So I think the bench has given him big lifts a number of games this year. I think he wants to play these guys, but there will be moments where you can see he really, really wants Cooper Flagg on the court as much as possible. And I think he feels that way about Knipple too, to be honest.
What about Tyrese Proctor? I think he feels that way about Proctor too.
Proctor, I think it took a little longer to get there. But now I think, I feel like they've upped. His role is so interesting, right? Because it's not what we've seen him do in previous years. And what's strange is like one game he will be bringing the ball up the court. And then like the next 3 games he won't. He'll just be standing in the corner. And one game he'll be like handling a little more. and the next game he'll just be shooting spot up threes. I'd like to see a little more usage out of him because I do think he's got some craftiness with the ball, but there's got to be a reason why they're doing that. His defense is so good. And then the other thing, again, that sort of changes the whole thing is the ball is moving on this team in a way. I'll just say this. It's the biggest difference between John and Kay. I mean, that Kay's teams did not move the ball. It was a lot of open set, attack off the dribble, spread the floor. This team, I mean, they play so well together. The ball doesn't stick. They're running, sequences and reads and, a flare into a pin down into, there's options, but they really, really share the basketball. So it almost doesn't matter who's initiating the offense.
All right, we're going to take a quick. Oh, Donald, you want to get a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say confirmed. Jordan listens to the pod. The two things that you just mentioned, Tyrese Proctor being like a jack of all trades of sorts and the chameleon in different situations, and the fact that we pass the ball all the time. Those are two things that we love on this show. So glad you're listening because that made for a great one.
That's why I'm here.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break. On the other side, Jordan teased it for us already. We're gonna ask him about Caleb Foster after the break. Hang with us. All right, it's a new year. Are you ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating, well, easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes so you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you.
Jason, everyone has busy lives and some are more on the go than others. And Factor takes the guesswork out of meals. With 40 options on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. You can choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. And Jason, here's the best part. The meals are delicious. I love the Factor meals. It's delicious food, it's nutritious, easy prep, and it caters to your schedule. It's a no-brainer.
Okay, everybody, eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/DukeBB50off. Use that code DukeBB50off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code DukeBB50off at factormeals.com and get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box.
College hoops is in full force, but you know what time it is in the NFL? Playoffs? Talk about playoffs? Playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL.
Yeah, hey, Donald, the new DraftKings customers bet $5 and they get $200 in bonus bets instantly. $200 bonus bet. That's pretty good, man. Are you ready to place your first wager? Try something simple like, I don't know, a player to score a touchdown, or pick the team you think is going to go all the way. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your picks as the NFL hits the postseason.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DukeBB. That's code DukeBB for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
The Apple Watch Series 10 is here. It has the biggest display ever. It's also the thinnest Apple Watch ever, making it even more comfortable on your wrist, whether you're running, swimming, or sleeping. And it's the fastest charging Apple Watch, getting you 8 hours of charge in just 15 minutes. The Apple Watch Series 10, available for the first time in glossy jet black aluminum. Compared to previous generations, iPhone XS or later required. Charge time and actual results will vary.
We are back from the commercial break. Donald Wine, Jason Evans, DBR Podcast, joined by our buddy Jordan Brenner of The Athletic and DraftKings podcast world and all that other kind of stuff. All right, dude, you mentioned earlier we have to talk to you about Caleb Foster. Since the last time when you were last on, I think Caleb was still starting at point guard. Since then, he's moved to the bench. Sion James, and by the way, we know why Sion is playing. The defense is absolutely next level for a guard. Unless Tyrese Proctor is just as good, I'm not sure. But let's talk about Caleb. What are you seeing? What can happen to give him, if not a starting role again, but a bigger role in what Duke is doing?
So I guess the first thing is, in some ways, I wonder if Caleb Foster is the victim of outsized expectations. You come in with a recruiting ranking, you come in with certain people talking about your game in a certain way, and the expectation is this guy's going to be one and done or two and done, and big time player. I know someone who saw a practice this summer and told me he thought he might be the leading scorer on the team. I don't know who that guy was, but in the litany of Evans predictions, that one's right up there. So I liked Caleb Foster last year in a supporting role. What I didn't ever see out of him was like a certain level of explosiveness, ability to get to the rim. And he had a rep as a good shooter, and he can be streaky, but it's an unorthodox. It's got so much arc on the shot, and the release is funky that I never quite trust him shooting. Okay, I figured part of the freshman adjustment, injury, the rest, I expected it to come back with more, but I still like, if you ask me, like, what's the one thing Caleb Foster does at like a all ACC level? I can't put my finger on it. Like, I want him to be an attack-minded guard. I want him to be like a Nolan Smith or something like that and make that kind of jump. I just haven't seen that. And then, look, without talking to anyone on the staff, without being in practice, without having any true understanding, like, we heard grumblings right last year of him maybe being unhappy in a role or whatever. Like, you never know what someone's friends or family are saying to each other. So if I'm not saying this is who he is or what he is at all, but I know from past experiences that it's even harder if like someone is saying that you should be the guy, you should have the ball in your hands, you should be scoring 15 a game, and like you're not doing that, then your confidence drops. And like, I guess I worry about him embracing this role, because whatever he's going to be the rest of the season, it's not going to be a 30-minute a game guy, right? Could he end up starting a point guard later in the year? Could he be a super sub playing 20, 25 minutes a game off the bench and scoring? Yeah, if he embraces that, but like, that's probably not what he had in mind going into this year. So I guess my question would be, what is he thinking of himself? Does he blame himself? Does he blame the staff? Does he blame his teammates? Is he making excuses? Again, not saying he is, just saying that in my years covering the game, this is what you see in lots of places. So it has to be, is his confidence still there? Who or what is he holding responsible for his current situation? And what can he do to improve? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what the staff's answer to that is. If it's like, do we need to keep this guy happy? We want him back next year. Is he gone no matter what next year? Or have we already in some ways moved on from him being a significant contributor? I have no idea. It's literally the only thing that sort of like gives me pause from afar on this team. But like, my only worry about like unhappiness. Does that make any sense?
Well, yeah. I mean, when you think about it, right? Like, I always think the 3 C's that he's missing on the court: confidence, consistency, and charisma, right? When he's on the court, the thing there, and like I said in the last spot, like the carefreeness that he kind of played at certain stretches last year, I thought he played the best when he just let everything go and just, shot the rock because he was the 3rd or 4th option and he got a chance to shoot it. And it was just, it just felt fluid for him instead of, I guess, the added pressure of being, the starter, being the guy. And for a guy who, he should be a high school, he should be a freshman right now, right? Because he reclassified. Like,
did Foster reclassify? I thought that was Proctor.
No, Proctor.
Proctor. I'm sorry. Yeah, Proctor. But like, they're all young, right? And so the idea that he is coming in and just is lacking that, I hope he finally gets that back. Jordan, I want to move further down the bench, because if you go back to 2015, And even in 2001, we had to rely in the Elite Eight, Final Four, and the championship game on little used guys. You went in 2015. You had Grayson Allen, who I won't say little used, but he wasn't in the main rotation until
before the Wake Forest game, like 4 or 5 games from the end of the season. Grayson Allen was not in the rotation.
But wasn't that was that the year Suleiman was sent packing?
Yes, it was.
Yes,
yeah.
it
So
was.
that's a clear cause and effect situation, right? Like,
Right.
they had guys playing. It just, something happened, and then Grayson was next man up, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is this, right? I mean, even in 2001, I was on that team when Boozer broke his foot, and we had a
You
center
were on
by
that
committee
team.
for him.
What role did you play?
I was the sixth man. So
Yeah, okay.
I was out to the side. But back in those days, right? You had guys who had to step up at certain moments in the thick of things. The guys who were further down the bench had to contribute. Is there a point that you see that a Darren Harris, a Patrick Gongba, need to be ready to step in to replace, whether it be for foul trouble, whether it be for, God forbid, something even more serious, or just the sheer fact of, hey, things aren't going right and we need to make a switch, and he calls their number?
Need to be ready, of course, always. Expect them to have any influence in a big game if this team stays healthy? No. They're playing 9 guys. You're not going to play more than that. Where are you finding minutes for Gongba? You're already splitting 40 minutes right down the line with 2 really good players in Malawak and Malik Brown. I don't want to take minutes away from either of those guys. In fact, like, if one of them could knock down a couple more shots, I'd love to see them play together a little bit, but that's clearly not in the cards right now. So, no, only time I could see Gongba playing is like a situation where both those guys are in foul trouble. Like, think about against Okafor in the Final Four when Sheldon and Shav, and suddenly you're finishing with Nick Horvath, right? Like, both those guys pick up 2 first half fouls, and I wouldn't be shocked to see John throw Gongba in for a couple minutes. In fact, when he was unhappy with Malawak a couple games ago, you saw him get off the bench. So, like, that's a luxury, right? Like, it's not a walk on there. Like, this is a pretty highly recruited freshman with lots of size who can come in but like, if everything's going well, there's not much of a path there. There's less of a path there for Darren Harris. Like, there's just too many guys who are his size and better right now. Like, if I mentioned, like, on a cold shooting night, could you go to someone like, if the 7 guys in front of him are all shooting poorly, like, we've got bigger problems than, whether Darren Harris is getting in the game.
Right.
And again, my question again is, like, you okay with that? Like, I just don't know these days what the conversations are with players' parents and the staff and the kids and whatever. Like, I think we all could read the writing on the wall of who would be in the rotation and who wouldn't be. But, like, guys have been the best players on their team their whole lives. They're confident. They probably think they're going to find a way to get playing time. Like, so if you're in that situation, it's like, okay, like usual, most of this team is going to be gone next year anyway. I'll move up into a role next year. Or is it like, TJ Power left. They wanted him back. He's doing nothing. But, like, are we just in such an instant gratification world, buoyed by NIL offers from elsewhere, that, like, it's harder to maintain a developmental player, of which I would call both of those guys right now?
I mean, with different guests that we've had recently, we've learned that it doesn't matter how many minutes you're playing. Like, all these guys are thinking, that similar thought of after a season of, is this the right place for me, or do I, go elsewhere or think about other things? So it's a very interesting question, and the further down the bench you go, it seems to be more of a question nowadays.
Right, and it's part of the reason I don't enjoy this era as much anymore. But, like, I'd love to get in a room with a bunch of players and their parents and just pick their brains about, like, what is college basketball about to them at this point now?
It's a business. It's a business.
And compare it to, are they in this to make as much money during these 4 years as possible? Are they in this? How much is the education still valued? Are they in this to further their pro prospects? And then, to the degree that they weigh those various things, where does playing time, fit, type of school, all of that come into play? It's a far more complex equation. I just don't like hearing, all the griping and the blaming of staffs and stuff. It's impossible for everyone to be happy. I think Duke is doing a really good job of managing this situation that everyone's struggling with and is causing long-term coaches to retire about as well as possible. But bigger picture, this era is not sustainable long-term. And if it does, coaching in this era will not be sustainable because it's going to burn the hell out of everyone.
Hey, I want to get back to something that you mentioned a little while ago about Duke being tested.
Mm-hmm.
And how hard is the schedule going to be here in the ACC? Do you think it matters? Do you think it's a problem that Duke may only play one other ranked team, Illinois, non-conference, in the entire rest of the season?
That's a tough question. Do I think it probably matters some?
I mean, I guess if I can rephrase,
yeah.
Do you think Duke needs to be tested more? Or are you content with 20-plus point victories night after night after night, shades of 1999 all over again?
First of all, they will lose to someone. They're going to. It's just going to, you play this many games.
You're off the podcast. You're done.
Yeah. So, tested. Okay. You got the Illinois game. That's going to be a great test. Illinois, I think, is 7th in Ken Palm right now, okay? That's a pluck that in for whoever your top ACC opponent normally would be, and that replaces it, okay? You have that arch rival of theirs who may not be playing super well right now, but that's still a home and home, and that's a test no matter what. So there is that. I think they're going to Clemson. I think that's absolutely a test. 2 games against Wake. So, yeah, is it the same as going to Tennessee one night and Florida the next and Auburn the next that the SEC teams are having? No, but I don't know that there's a scientific way to measure how many games you have against the best opponents in the country and how much that prepares you for March. Look, they certainly were tested with their non-conference schedule. I mean, it's as good as anyone's. The question is okay, that was 2 months ago. What does it matter? But if this team is just continuing to grow and compete and setting their bar differently, then I think they can overcome it. Do I wish there was maybe 1 or 2 more games against a top 10, top 15 team in there? Yeah, but look, maybe one of these teams grows over the course of the season. Maybe Carolina picks it up to their talent level. It's probably a concern. I don't think it's a fatal concern.
Well, related to that, with the ACC and the reputation and the evidence so far that it's been a down year for the conference across the whole, does that hurt the mystique of Duke playing UNC this year? In a way, for example, you lose to an arch rival or you beat an arch rival, it's usually viewed as a big deal. But in the grand scheme of things, is the committee going to look at that and still say, hey, Duke UNC is still Duke UNC? Or do they look at the conference and go, this game doesn't mean as much, at least in the grand scheme of 1 seeds and 2 seeds anymore?
So are we positing a situation where Duke loses to UNC in one of those 2 games and the
wins, right? Does that game hold as much weight as it does if UNC is in the top 10?
Hey, look, if Duke goes the rest of the season losing 1 or 2 more games, they're 1 seed, full stop. So the Carolina game doesn't even come into play. The non-conference schedule will speak for itself, and their record will speak for itself, and the analytics, again, number 1 in Ken Palm right now, will speak for itself. Okay, so I don't the only way you're talking about that is if they do lose 4 or 5 games, and then people start nitpicking on quality of opponents. Then yeah, if they sweep Carolina, it wouldn't be the same as if we could point to we swept the 10th ranked Carolina, and that matters. So sure, I just don't think I think there's too much else that baked into this for that to really make a huge difference.
All right, Jordan, one last question for you before we let you go.
Yeah.
Let's play the expectations game.
Expectations game.
And I kind of hate this because the one and done tournament is just really hard on teams that have a really great season. You do everything right, and then something goes wrong at one point, and sometimes it's not even in your control. You play a team, and they just happen to have an out-of-body experience. They hit 60% of their threes. There's nothing you can do about it, and you lose.
Your All-America point guard turns his ankle in the first half, and the 4 seed beats you.
It's happened before. So let me ask you, if this Duke team, let me put it this way: if this Duke team doesn't make a Final Four, are you going to be really disappointed in Jon Scheyer?
I will be disappointed in a sad sense because for two reasons. I really love watching this team, and they are national championship quality good. I have you hit the nail on the head. I have long since stopped blaming coaches when a team loses early in the tournament. I know fans don't like to hear this. I know the idiots on Twitter really don't like to hear this. One and done scenarios. It's where what I've been writing about for 20 years with upsets. There's so much randomness baked in. There's only so much the players can control, let alone a coach. Okay. A coach can't control for one cold shooting night, which has struck even the best teams in college basketball. Coaches can't control for injuries. Coaches can't control for the other team playing out of its mind. And there are two teams on the court. So no, if Duke makes the Elite Eight and plays, Tennessee or someone falls to a 2 seed or something like that, and the other team plays great and Duke's missing. Let's say Duke's offense is generating open shot after open shot, and they're just hitting the back rim. Whose fault is that? It's nobody's fault. Again, there will be teenagers on Twitter who are crying and saying, "Oh, Scheyer can't coach," forgetting that Coach K's teams lost plenty of times in the NCAA tournament. It's I've stopped paying attention to the idiots on Twitter. I know you hear some of the criticisms from time to time. I think the only one I spoke up on was that guy who said Duke doesn't play fast, and I had to point out the difference between offensive possession length and defensive possession length. Oddly, he didn't respond to me. By the way, watch Duke play offense right now, and again, how the ball moves, that's playing fast. But back to your question, will I be sad? Yes. Disappointed in anyone? No, especially because this era, as we talked about, is even harder to control. You're building a team on the fly every year, and you're gonna say you make the Final Four. Only 4 teams are successful all year, and if you don't make the Final Four, you failed. Screw that. It's not. That's not worth it. I'd rather not watch college basketball if that's going to be the sum total of my enjoyment. What do you think? Would you be disappointed?
No.
I'd be disappointed.
Wait, disappointed's the wrong word. Yes, of course I'd be disappointed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel like anyone had done anything wrong.
Right.
Unless they do something objectively wrong. But
sure,
we shot bad or they shot good is not something wrong. It's just how the ball bounces.
Yep. The funny thing is of course, before the season with all the hoopla around Cooper Flag and all that, the people who were telling me that if we don't win it all, that Jon Scheyer should be fired was numerous. And the number of people who were Duke people who said that was 0, which is not par for the
number
course.
of Duke people who said what? Sorry, it cut off. Sorry.
The number of Duke people who were saying that was
saying
0.
What?
It was all saying that Jon Scheyer should be fired. There's nobody saying that. It was all people who aren't Duke fans who were like, "Oh, if you don't win, then Jon should be fired." I'm like, "Yeah, you might do that at your university. You guys fire people, over ham sandwiches, whatever." But it's like someone was like, "Oh, is Jon Scheyer have any pressure?" I'm like, "Guys, we just came off of a guy who coached for 45 years. We don't have pressure to replace. Think of the number of Duke coaches in any sport that we have. All of them stay 20, 15, 20, 30
Well,
years.
this is a different kettle of fish. This is it's
a different kettle of fish. Yeah, but even in football, we've stopped kind of doing that. The only people who have left. Elko left. He didn't get fired. So I feel like the term here is patience. But yeah, at a certain point, you get the people talking, but it's not a lot of Duke people in my world are not saying, "Oh, if we don't win this thing, then John's got to go."
No. I think it would. Now, if he stepped in and what happened at Louisville happened, that you could have had a quick. I think the bigger thing is by all objective measures, the program is running exactly as you want it to. They're winning a lot of games. They're getting the best players. What I would have loved to have talked about is the way the transfer portal was handled this year was almost akin to what a savvy NBA general manager would do. Whereas it's not, I'm just not trying to pick the 3 best players out there. I'm filling needs.
Yeah.
And God, do those guys look like they've been here for 4 years? Right. It's
my biggest, we were talking about disappointment. My biggest disappointment is that we're not going to have another year of Sion James after this year. Right. I would love, man, I could watch that guy play forever.
We should, at least we'll get, I assume Malik Brown will stay.
I would
second year
think so, yeah.
of him would be fantastic. Yeah, no, I mean, you see the nuts on Twitter, like Shire can't coach. Like, he's a terrific coach. Like, I know ball. Like, and I see some of the adjustments he makes and the stuff he runs. Every coach.
Wait, let's be clear about something. Duke is running a more sophisticated, more effective offense today than they were under Coach K.
100%. And look, the biggest thing you could say is like different is that you don't see them playing with that all-out insane mania of passion outward. Like, they're not slapping the floor, they're not, but I'm sure John's like not making them feel like their life depends on every next play the way Kay did to kids, but I'm not sure you could get away with that. I don't think Kay could get those kids doing that now either. And there's an argument to be said for just maintaining an even keel too. But I think people miss some of that passion a little bit. And they think because John's not freaking out on the sideline that he doesn't have it. It's more the Brad Stevens school, which certainly worked. And
he does freak out. It's just not, to borrow from the young kids, it's not a crash out, right? Like, he's not sitting there, losing his suit or losing his quarter zip and, spiking clipboards and stuff like that, like guys 10 years ago used to do. He's just more like, okay, like, it's almost like he's talking to the ref and he's animated, but he's kind of telling the ref, like, now that you understand, like, I need the next one. Like, that you've messed up enough. I need the next one, and doing it that way.
If they stop getting top players, if they start getting like 6 and 7 seeds instead of like, okay, we weren't clicking on all cylinders and we got a 4 seed this year. This year they're going to be a 1 or 2, right? If that happens consistently, then like, okay, then yeah, then you can start talking about, do we need to do something? But as long as this team is, among the upper echelon every year, that's all you can ask for. And like, do that enough and you'll break through in the tournament at some point.
Beautifully stated, sir. I could not agree more. The ride is worth more than the journey, or the destination. I mean, the journey's worth more than that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. That said, we all know what the destination is for this team.
Jason just basically said the ceiling is the roof.
The ceiling is the
roof. Oh, okay. We should wrap it up here before I stick my foot in my mouth again. All right. For Donald, I'm Jason. We once again thank Jordan Brenner for joining us. Here's the Duke Band, folks. They're playing us out and taking us home. I've been doing nothing but covering the damn fires for the past several days.
Oh, God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Well, by the way, my son Alec lives out in LA. And
come on, Alec is like 12.
No, unfortunately,
I know.
He's like double that. Double that.
I know. It's been, yeah.
So in any event, he calls last night at like midnight and wakes us up and he goes, I just want you to know, you shouldn't worry, but I'm leaving my house. And I'm like, wait, what? He and his girlfriend are leaving their apartment in Burbank, and they went to stay at a hotel that's, a safe distance from the fires. They said, we looked out the window, we could see stuff coming.
Yep.
We haven't been told to leave yet, but we're going to leave now. And I was like, dude, smart. Good idea. Go for it.
Yeah.
You go to your Anaheim hotel. You found a hotel room, stay there. So, yeah.
Glad they're out. I mean, I know people who've had to evacuate and all that. It's been pretty wild.
Yeah. My brother who lives out there says he has at least a half dozen, if not more, friends who've lost everything. Literally have lost, like they grabbed a couple pictures and they ran and their house is now gone. It's terrifying to think about. Ugh. Anyway.
Well, on that really uplifting note,
yes,
let's talk about basketball.